Three strikes laws are not beneficial to society. What is it? Habitual offender laws, commonly known as three strikes laws, is a principle the United States implemented in 1994 that required repeat offenders of felonies and other convictions to serve a life sentence in prison. Most of the offenders who come in contact with this form of law have a history of violent offenses and may be considered a danger. The purpose of this law is to lengthen sentences to give repeat offenders a stronger punishment for breaking the law and keep them from repeat offending by incapacitating them. Why they don't work. Takes away court discretion. In our legal system, judges look over evidence and weighing circumstances to help with fair sentencing. With three strikes laws, it takes away this important part of the legal system in favor of a black and white option. Crimes are sometimes in a gray area and need the help of judges to decide how to prosecute, if at all. Preys on minorities. There is a disproportionate amount of arrests, convictions, and imprisonments of minority people in the justice system. Three strikes laws further cripple minority status by patrolling these neighborhoods and making arrests on nonviolent charges, such as drug possession. It doesn't allow for people to have the option of parole if it is a drug charge or other nonviolent offenses. It is teaching people that there is no tolerance if one makes mistakes. It clogs up the court system and increases violence. With the three strikes laws, it will cause more people to try to wager for plea bargains for a lesser sentence, causing more paperwork. This slows down the already full system. Most people can't afford their own attorney and will need one from the state, causing again more legal paper process. With the law being so strict, it could cause unnecessary violence for a past offender who has fixed their behavior if they come in contact with a police officer. Fear causes people to act rashly to any police officer who could just be patrolling. It violates the Eighth Amendment. The Eighth Amendment is, excessive bail shall not be required, nor excessive fines imposed, nor cruel and unusual punishments inflicted. To be imprisoned for one's full life is unusual and cruel in our justice system. When people break the law, they serve a time allotted by a court system. They are not allowed to go out and carry on with the rest of their lives. A full life punishment stops people from life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. They have no chance to redeem themselves. The Eighth Amendment is set up to protect our freedoms, and in a way, the three strikes policy takes away from those protections of our freedom. Alternatives. An alternative to the current three strike laws in place could be to change the crimes that are considered a strike. With any felony being considered a strike against the person, a non-violent criminal could end up spending the rest of their life behind bars. With a reform to the crimes on the list for strikes, many would-be lifelong inmates could have the chance for rehabilitation and go back to society as contributing members. Another alternative would be to dismantle the three-strike law altogether and let judges base punishments off their own discretion. Legal cases. Johnson versus United States and the Armed Criminal Career Act of 1984. Samuel Johnson was a convicted criminal who was being investigated by the FBI for his involvement with white supremacist organizations that were being suspected of plotting terrorist acts. He told the FBI that he was making napalm, silencers, and other explosives, as well as possessed multiple firearms and ammunition. He was arrested and pled guilty to being a convicted felon in possession of an AK-47. Because he had been arrested 3 previous times on felony charges, 2 simple robbery convictions, and possession of a short-barreled shotgun, he qualified for the mandatory minimum sentencing of 15 years under the ACCA. The Supreme Court found that the ACCA was too vague in what it deemed to have a serious potential risk of physical injury. This violated the Fifth Amendment, and Justice Scalia said in his opinion that the ACCA was a criminal law so vague that it fails to give ordinary people fair notice of the conduct it punishes, or so standardless that it invites arbitrary punishment. This shows that mandatory minimum sentencing and the three strikes laws can violate our due process and forces judges to pass down sentencing without looking at the circumstances on a case-by-case basis. Samuel Johnson had a minimum of 15 years of his life taken away from him for possession of the firearm just because of this rule. Without prior charges, the prison sentence averages 10 years. Longer prison sentences are more expensive, and taxpayers like the people who pay for this, as well as through government funds. Not having the three-strike rule would help decrease the cost of prisons and could decrease jail time for people committing these offenses. In opposition, those that support the three-strike rules do so with the belief of the original intent of the law. A criminal who has committed 3 felonies has been given enough chances to step away from their criminal ways and should be locked up to prevent them from committing any more felonies. Our rebuttal is there is data that is suggested in the taking sides that says that criminals age out of crime. Since crime tends to be a young person's game, then we should allow for them to become contributing members of society and give them an opportunity to age out outside of the prison setting once they have served the appropriate time without added time from 3 strikes. This would also clear out prison space and save taxpayer dollars. Other opposition that rules for the 3-strike laws is that the laws provide deterrence to those who have committed felonies in the past. Due to the last felony needing to be any felony on the books, a criminal might think twice about what they're about to do if the consequences could be 25 years to life in prison. With overcrowded prisons because of laws like 3 strikes, you can easily make the argument that it does not deter future crime for prior convicted felons. Alternative methods through a different approach, such as rehabilitation, could give them the resources to help improve their situation. Locking them up and throwing away the key is a narrow-sighted perspective that only clogs the system with aging criminals that will more than likely age out of criminal activity. In conclusion, 3 strikes laws do not work because it is an intolerance form of law that makes people fear what is going to happen to them instead of changing. It has few pros to the majority of downfalls, including it drains money from the states, it takes away judge discretion, and it causes possible outlets for discrimination. The 3 strikes laws is expensive, and the taxpayers end up having to pay for the prison time. Not having this rule would decrease jail time, decrease costs, as well as try and keep people out of prisons. These are our references.